Afternoon, everybody, virtually and in person. We'll start this slide off with the title, Targeted Digital Marketing to Increase Participation in Post-2020. Well, we were all chasing the bump, and we were coming up with ideas early on in this campaign to chase the bump and COVID bump. And we wanted to make sure that we were able to retain some of those anglers and boaters out there. And so we got together with our partners, Sinclair, which is a marketing group that we use, and then we also had Calcamite come in and help us out with some of those marketing campaigns as well. We have this picture on the side over here. It's our Get Online, Get Outside. It's kind of our tagline, and it's to transition people into being simple, convenient, and modern. That's basically what we're trying to do with our licensing. And we're wanting to bring these new people in, and this whole campaign was based on bringing some of those new people in. There's a lot of challenges that we had during this campaign, and we'll go over some of those challenges. But there was something that Director Wasley said earlier on today. We have to be adaptive and innovative. And during this whole campaign, that's really what it came down to. Those challenges that we were having during the campaign, we really needed to be adaptive and innovative. We're a very small agency, and we have to be very nimble. And this whole thing was about being nimble and being able to, and I'm not going to use the word yet, but able to adjust. We'll move on from here. Whoop.
Is this working? I just wanted to go over real quick that targeted digital marketing to increase participation post-2020 wasn't our first choice. But Nevada, it's on fire, got shot down. So we went with this one. And we're going to get into that because that was one of our challenges. And I'm just going to go over, this is, we wanted to give an overview of the stuff we did. Didn't reinvent any wheels. Leaned heavily on over-the-top stuff because, as some of you have heard my joke, we live in Nevada. And that means we have to advertise in Las Vegas. And the Nevada Department of Wildlife cannot compete with Britney Spears and the Blue Man Group and Celine Dion. So our budget would last about a day and a half, maybe, if we tried to compete with those people. So we did a lot of over-the-top. We did digital advertising. We did text messages and e-blasts, which Chris can tell you are super effective for us. I don't know about other states, but we have a really solid click-through rate on that. Google ads I mentioned. What else? Geofencing. We didn't do it quite as much with the boating side, but with fishing we had quite a bit of success. But this is just an overview of the stuff we did. And now, as Chris and I joked, at this point, we were pretty optimistic because even though Wisniewski likes to joke that we're the driest state in the country, we think there's a lot of opportunity, and we do have Lake Mead and Lake Tahoe, so there's some pretty popular lakes there. And so Chris and I were super excited to do these campaigns because we thought with the bump after the shutdown, we were good to go. And then this happened.
Really sad music. Just to give you an idea of what was going on at the time here, we had 3 fires happening all around us in our bordering states, everywhere from Oregon to California, and then one in our state in Nevada that crossed over from California. These fires combined were over 1.5 million acres. Just the one fire, and the Dixie fire was 1 million. This fire that came over from Caldor Fire, which was about 56,000, came over from the California side, ended up in the Tahoe Basin. This is a commute through Washoe Valley. I take this commute. This is not fog. This is the smoke that we were dealing with at the time. And this is the same time we're trying to push people to get outside and go fishing and go boating. We were dealing this right now because we just moved our campaign, our heavy assets of our campaign to the north, and this is what we were dealing with. Again, the fires were really bad during this period, and the fires just didn't seem to stop, and it was this whole couple of months. All these fires, again, were affecting almost all of our state of Nevada, and they were all happening on the bordering states.
It was good times.
Yeah.
It was good times. If you like the smell of a campfire, it was great because it was there all the time when you stepped outside.
This is actually coming down in the Tahoe Basin. So needless to say, our big push for our northern region was not really that effective right now, especially when we have some of the restrictions.
I don't know how many of you have this app downloaded on your phone, but if you lived in Nevada or California, all of us had an air quality app that we would constantly check because cross-country practice was always practiced or was always canceled. And I don't know if you can tell this, but so you see the red bar there, that's unhealthy. It's not supposed to be whatever color that, what is that, magenta? It's not supposed to be over there. And our air quality spiked at 694. So you weren't supposed to go outside, pretty much. They were basically telling you if you stepped outside, you were going to die. And we were at the same time telling them, hey, you know what would be fun? Let's go boating and fishing. We really enjoyed the quote down there. For those of you wondering if the air quality yesterday was the worst ever in the Reno-Sparks area, the answer is an unfortunate yes. So we won. We got the worst air quality in the history of northern Nevada. And just so you know, that's what Tahoe's supposed to look like. And that's what we looked at for about, 2 months?
Yes. So, on top of that, we had
but wait, there's more.
These devastating fires. And then we had the peak of another 4-year drought. Again, we're pushing boating, we're pushing fishing. This is in the Lake Tahoe. That pier's supposed to have boats on it. That dock was, or the Lake Mead launch there is actually supposed to, that was where our water should be. You can see where the water line has been at Lake Mead, and we were making national news on how bad it was. That national news was a little counterintuitive to what we were actually campaigning and trying to get people out and fishing. Washoe Lake was actually dried up. Little Washoe is one of the first times it's ever dried up. We added the bones too, because that just kind of put some effort. We didn't even need that, it was already there. But this is really what we were dealing with. This is the bleak perspective that we were having on, and people were seeing this, and we're still trying to push, right? So we did have to make some adjustments. These are all things that were occurring. These were all drought conditions, but we still had opportunity, and there were still things that we can still make those opportunities happen.
So here, this was our situation. Worst air quality, drought conditions, it was unpleasant. And we could have just sat there and said, oh, woe is me, we did the best we could, but look at all the bad stuff that happened, so whatever happens, happens. But as you guys could tell from earlier, Director Wasley is a very intimidating person. And so we couldn't take those numbers to Director Wasley or Deputy Director Jack Robb, who's right over here. So we decided to look on the positive side and focus on what we could do. Once again, that's what Tahoe's supposed to look like. It's really pretty when it's not on fire.
So people, not only in our bordering states, were they were socked into fire. They were having devastation. We wanted to let them know there was still opportunity on those bordering states. So we actually did a lot of campaigning with a lot of Google ads, a lot of other, and we'll go over that. But those things were hitting some of our non-residents. And then, the non-resident piece of it, but we also were pushing our residents, and we were actually making adjustments at this moment, because in the southern region, we will always pull away when it gets too hot, and we'll go into some of that detail later, but we were coming back into the north, but then we had to move again. So we had to move back, okay, let's look at central portion of the state and try to promote some of those opportunities.
And then on the boat sales, as some of you know, I'm very competitive, so Chris handled the fishing side and I handled the boating side, so it was I wanted to do better than Chris. But I had a lot of benefits that he did not have, and one of them was that the inventory for boats, it dried up during the pandemic. Everybody was trying to buy a boat, so you had all these people on waiting lists to buy boats. Well, guess when the boats started to become available? Right before we had this little contest to see who could do better. So I had some help that maybe he didn't have. Plus, when people want to go boating, they want to go boating for the season. And so even if it's smoky outside, they still know at some point the smoke will be gone and then they'll go boating. Fishing, not so much. If you look outside, it's smoky, you're probably not going to buy the license that day. So there are reasons why I beat Chris, but I beat Chris.
So we did move it to some video production at this point, and we wanted to promote those through some of our OTT and some of our other social media pieces, and we also wanted to do some bot ads. But we wanted to sell those opportunities. The smoke wasn't going to stay forever, and some of those opportunities were still there. So we wanted to show people what those were. So we developed an ad here that basically, this is from Reno. We wanted to let people know in the north where some of these things are. You can see Tahoe is still smoky in this one. These are all waterways that are nearest to us in the north.
It's okay to bob your head.
I was on guitar here.
Find your staycation. Rediscover Nevada.
And we
Get your
use some of
fishing
these.
license at ndowlicensing.com.
And we used some of these ads even in 2020, but they played well, and they still played well during this period too. This was one of, you can
This
speak
is
to
I mean, obviously you can tell, we have, when we do our ads, we have to specifically market to Southern Nevada or Northern Nevada because they don't look remotely the same, and the audience is entirely different. So this is a boating ad specifically targeted towards Southern Nevada. And even though Chris won't admit it, I think this is him on the keyboard. It's beautiful.
mixer. We still messaged fishing within the boating because we know 50% of our
Find your
boats are
staycation.
fishing. too.
Rediscover Nevada. Get your boat registered at ndowlicensing.com.
So some of our southern campaign, as I mentioned before, we were in this period where we promote really heavily during some of our application period during our hunts, and that starts in winter. But we also are campaigning with the fishing campaign at the same time, so we can actually capture combination licenses. And we were doing that in the southern region, but we also wanted to concentrate on a demographic that we haven't really campaigned to before, and that was our Hispanic population. And 35% of that Hispanic population in Nevada is what we wanted to target, but we wanted to zero down that targeting a little bit more, and we'll go into that a little bit further. But the Nevada residents were also the ones that had interest and had pulled the trigger before, whether they were on some kind of, with us as setting up a profile, or they had some interest in fishing in Nevada. And then, of course, our bordering states, which I mentioned before. You can speak to some of the boater stuff here.
Yeah, another benefit I had that Chris didn't have, and I'm asking you to forget all of this when we get to the end and show you the results, because a win's a win. But one of the things I had was this was the first year we had our automatic renewal option for boating. So, yeah, it was, I know I've heard a lot of people bragging about Brant, but Calcami's been a pretty good partner for us. Like they, especially with this campaign, weekly reports, and we couldn't be happier with our automatic renewal. So, I got lucky with the boating campaign.
Yeah, we were working with our marketing group and a Calcami marketing group at the same time as we were going through this, and we were constantly making the adjustments where we felt things were falling or we didn't have lift, and we were working with them the whole time to make sure that things were still happening. We did some of our email blasts during that time period where we felt, oh, there were some things that were starting to lower. We better put out an email, get people reminding that, hey, fishing's still available out there. We even did posts too on our social that would encourage people about the stocking report, the fishing reports. Those are all things we did during the campaign.
And Chris and I have talked about it. Well, like we weren't sure how much to push this, but neither one of us are marketers. And so we just want to make sure it's clear that without Sinclair and Calcami side by side helping us do this, like we'd have been dead in the water. I don't know how this would have looked, but we just want to make sure that we were very clear that the success of this was not just us, is Sinclair and Calcami helping us all the way.
So one of the tools in the toolbox, as we mentioned before, was the geofencing, which I learned from this marketing workshop, and I borrowed from all of you those ideas, and we tried to implement some of those. One of the things that we were trying to target is this Hispanic population, and how do we do so? Well, some of the ideas that we came up to were urban ponds. We thought those would be good places, but we also wanted to make sure that we were making sure this big area that we're looking at is going to be narrowed even further down. So we had some places that we were going to look at. So some of those areas started to be not only those urban ponds, which is a given, but we also started to look at the marketplace where people went to shop in those communities. And we started campaigning in those geofenced areas, in those shopping areas. And then we promoted what was catch your meal. So if they're shopping, they're going for food. So we tied it to food and tried to make those ties in. We also did it with the urban ponds. So we did both of these campaigns in English and Spanish, and they both performed about the same. So what we did learn from the geofencing is do them in both, and you will have good results. And we had great results as far as I'm concerned, because this was a pilot for us. We weren't sure how geofencing was going to work for us, but we did think, wow, if we really figure out how to narrow some of these things down, we could actually get further with the geofencing. And this was just, again, marketplaces, the urban ponds, and we also, places of worship too was another place that we zeroed in, and they were all really great. And those banner ads would come up into their feeds as they came into that geofencing and push those. So great results year over year as well.
We only included this because Sinclair uses a company called Compulse OTT to help do our over-the-top advertising, and these are some of the other clients that Compulse works with, and Chris and I think that if it's good enough for Arby's, it's good enough for the Department of Wildlife. And these are just some of the things that we get when we go through Compulse, and basically this is a very complicated way of saying that they allow us to really target our ads so that we're not wasting our money because we don't have that much of it. So this allows us to specifically go after people interested in fishing, people interested in boating, outdoor enthusiasts, or any combination of those that are Spanish speaking, because we have all of these ads in Spanish as well. So Compulse just allowed us to really focus our over the top, which helps because Vegas is a large area, plus it's 2/3 of our state.
And a couple of years ago, we presented some of the overtop and how well we did with some of it and the performance of it, and we continue to do it because we think it's a great place for ads. And as we all know, you're forced to watch them when you're in those streaming devices. This is another ad that we created. It responded well with people when we put it on, not only on our traditional medias, but also on our social medias. And
Nevadans,
it's just about getting
life can be
outside, having fun,
overwhelming,
and
you may be
enjoying what we
feeling
have to
cooped up.
offer,
When the time
and
is
not
right
only
for
boating
you,
and
there
fishing.
are still trout to be caught, trails to be explored, birds to be watched. Nevada's great outdoors are wide open, and they are calling.
And I don't know if we mentioned this, but we
In
didn't,
challenging times
because we can
like
afford
these,
Northern
we need
Nevada, we
nature
don't
more
do a lot
than
of
ever.
over the top up there.
To
In
remind
Northern
us
Nevada
that
and East Nevada,
just
we can
like the
actually afford
sunset,
this on
those
television. So
challenging
these are running
times
on
will
the normal
pass.
stations up
We need
here
to
and
connect, from
down on
boating
streaming
to
video
hiking
down
across
there,
Nevada.
which thank God blew up during the
It's
pandemic.
time to get back
I know the
to
pandemic's a
nature.
terrible thing,
We
but
need
at
to
least that was a good
explore
thing.
from
Streaming
the
video
crystal blue
exploded.
waters of Tahoe to the wildlife all over our state. It's time to find beauty you've never seen before. It's time to smell the campfire and taste a s'more. Never lose touch with that sense of awe and serenity. It's time to live fully.
So this was another ad that we developed mainly because there was people really don't know how close they are to waterways. And the Vegas area in particular, it's very, very, very urbanized, and they don't know how close they are to water that's really literally in the back door. So we wanted to kind of show the city. We did both of these ads in Spanish and in English, and it's a fast ad. So this one's made more for social or the OTT. And this is the road out to Henderson, to Lake Mead. Within minutes, they could be out catching fish or boating.
And I don't like to say nice things about Chris very often, but this one especially, that was entirely his idea. And we didn't just run the videos on OTT or on television. We were able to do the audience extension video, so it was running on computers and tablets and any like. I feel bad for if you were in Nevada and you were trying to read an article because you were probably going to get told to go boating and fishing, but it's what we do. And this was obviously all of them, but the extension helped us to really target it too. So this is one where we targeted boaters just up in Northern Nevada. And once again, it's Chris on the keyboards.
find your staycation. Rediscover Nevada.
And we know that this is, the writing's too small and you probably can't see it, but this was just our way of proving that we didn't just randomly decide to run Facebook ads. We looked at the numbers, and because we were trying to make our dollars stretch as much, we just focused our ads on Facebook. I know YouTube's to the left of it, but we were doing quite a bit of video other places, so we focused our social media advertising campaign almost entirely on Facebook. And this is just our actual social media. We didn't do it quite the same way. On our social media, we weren't telling everybody to go get your boat registered and to buy a fishing license. We were pointing out all the cool stuff that was going on outside. So we'd tell them, look, it's a beautiful day, you know, wouldn't boating be fun? Or Chris likes to point out we're doing fish stocking here. So we were just telling them, hey, you know, the fish are getting stocked. So we weren't quite as aggressive on our own pages. We just kind of did the whole, you know, you should go outside type of posts.
But it was part of the whole campaign process. And of course, we're always pushing NDOW licensing and also some of our stocking reports and fishing reports.
This was our way of trying to explain how big Nevada is, because I don't think a lot of people get the size of our state. So there's England dwarfed by our state. And I believe we're fifth largest state in the country, 110,000 square miles. So that's why the gentleman that was helping us earlier when we were talking about snow, because it's currently snowing in Reno, which up there near the top where we live. But down there at the bottom is Las Vegas, which is what everybody pictures all of. Yeah, the weather down in Vegas, when we went to the airport yesterday, it was snowing in Reno and it was 82 degrees in Las Vegas. So our campaigns have to be entirely different for the two, and then we often have to move them back and forth because at a certain point it's going to get really, really hot in Las Vegas.
And that's why we were speaking to it earlier. This is when our campaigns earlier on stop. Come May, we take some of that energy that we have in our toolbox and try to move it around, and we need to move it more towards the north. And in this case, some of the things that were going on in the north, we actually had to move in the middle of the state. This just gives you an idea, some of the extremes. This could be in the same day. So this was my wife shoveling the yard, and of course I was taking the picture while she was shoveling. And then this is a shot of the Vegas Strip right here. It just tells you those extremes in a day. And then, you know, as we were leaving out of the airport, he goes, you know what? As we're going through this slide, he goes, we should check what the temperatures are right now in Vegas, because we drove in and we were on a sheet of ice basically getting into the airport, and it's already snowed. And he looks it up and he goes, yeah, what was it, 70 degrees?
It was 80.
Yeah, well, it was almost 80 degrees. So it was like 78 degrees. So just that's extremes. That's what we're dealing with. And I'm pointing this out is because although some of us, we don't always have marketing positions within our agencies, so we have to go contract. So if those people are out there and you're looking to get a contract, you're going to have to help them navigate through this, because this is the stuff that they don't know. They don't know their customer the way we know our customer, and they don't know some of the things that push people into different places. So we like to point that out.
And that was the point that we were making at the beginning, was in a normal year, we would start our campaign in Las Vegas or in Clark County, because it's really nice. When it's cold everywhere else, it's in the 70s there. And so we can promote boating and fishing, but as it starts to get into June and July, it's 112, 113, 114 degree days. So people aren't really thinking about going fishing. So as it starts to heat up, we take our resources and move them back up to northern Nevada. Well, would anybody like to guess when we would normally move them back up to northern Nevada? What happened? Fire. Yeah, that's when the fire started, right? As we're moving all our resources up, people are being told not to go outside. Chris knows it's not his fault, but he literally uses the word pivot. And so we would be talking about the fires, whatever, and he'd say, we need to pivot, or we need to, you know, blah, 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 we need to pivot. And I watched Friends too much. And so every time this poor man would say pivot, I would yell it out, pivot, 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 to where he'd start telling me to shut up, and we actually did need to pivot. But he did let me put this slide in there, so.
It was appropriate, for sure. So I mean, that's one of the things we've been trying to point out this whole time, is how we were trying to be adaptive and innovative. And some of the things we did learn, like on the geofencing side of things, we didn't have quite the click-through rate at the urban ponds that I actually thought we were going to have. We were more successful at those marketplaces and those places of worship. So we actually started to concentrate more on the Google Ads aspect of those. And so we moved some of that campaign into the Google Ads. And of course, again, we were dealing with those air quality issues in our bordering areas. We started to concentrate a little bit more on them and their some of the opportunity that we can give them. So some of the results, it's not the best because we lost, you know, so I'm here to point that out, like, hey, we had a 500,000 drop, but we were also chasing that big bump that we had. So, you know, some of those things we've maybe been able to bring those back, but if we didn't do this campaign, we would have had more of a significant drop. So this is some of the things that we really want to emphasize, not only chasing that RBFF R3 marketing grant to help you out to get these campaigns moving, but also work with your marketers and your partners, your vendors, to try to get things going for you, because this could have been a big hit for us. You know, we had an 8% increase on revenue on non-residents. This goes on both sides of the, both on the fishing and the hunting. So we were able to push both of those. And then we had a 4% increase overall. So things weren't that bad. So we were feeling pretty good about our results. We did learn some things. Some of the QR codes, and we'll go in a little bit more detail on another slide, but QR codes were, you know, they made a comeback. And who knows, man, who would have thought? But now they did. So we started taking the QR codes, and it was actually, Deputy Director Jack Robb came in and says, hey, we got to get QR codes at our state parks. And I'm like, yeah, we do. And let's get that going. And so we sent a guy out, got some signs designed, and he went to every state park in the state, did a big swing through, put those signs up in those state parks. State parks were really grateful for it because people did ask those things, where to get a license, and they could just hit that QR code, or they forgot to register their boat, they hit that QR code. So there was a lot of things we were learning as we were going through this campaign that were going to be more successful for us.
Don't forget, whoever that was that they sent with the signs, 5th largest state. That person did a bunch of driving.
It was a big tour.
It was big. And here's the results that prove I won. So, which we'll get into it. But even with the drought and the fires, like Tahoe literally shut down for a while. We saw a 45% increase in revenue. Deputy Director Jack Robb would point out that when you put a moratorium on voting registration and then you bring it back, you're probably going to have a bump. But I don't like to think about stuff like that. But that combined with all the inventory becoming available and the automatic renewal combined with this campaign saw not only the 45% increase in revenue, but we had a 9% increase in boats registered in the state. We like to point out that, you know, the first year of offering it, 57% of our boaters signed up for automatic renewal, so it's pretty good. And then I'm with Chris. QR codes, who knew? They're back? It's a thing? Because the Calcomite put them on our postcards, and we got 16% click-through rate, people going through and registering their boats that way. So, did not see that coming. And then with my campaign especially, we focused mostly on Monday through Thursday in the mornings because that seemed to be our most effective. And Friday, Saturday, Sunday, they're probably on the water. They're not paying attention to my ads. And then the bottom is just what we've already gone over. That's all the stuff we did for each of our campaigns.
We didn't mention our podcast a whole lot in here, but we should, because it's very, very good. And if anybody has a chance, you should take a listen to our podcast. It's very, it's all over the place, but it is a great podcast, and it really worked well during this campaign too. Lessons for this year: that through the challenges, we still had a 4% increase, like we said earlier. Start earlier in Northern Nevada because I think we kind of missed the boat a little bit, so to speak. But we did kind of transition a little bit too slow. We should have transitioned faster, probably come in a little bit earlier on our campaigning. We learned that Google Ads are super successful, that we had like 4,000 people come on and sign up for licensing through Google Ads, which was, it's significant with us. We actually have a state that's fairly small as far as our population that fish, so I think we could do more in Google Ads. QR codes, do more QR codes. We talked about actually putting them on our application books, our fishing books, so if people are walking by the counter, they can actually hit it and be able to drop that license right there and get that license right online wherever they're at. we have other opportunities, I think, for QR codes. We're putting in buildings and things like that. So we'll just expand that. Also, our new website, check it out. It's ndow.org. This is really going to help us in the future because we're going to have some more connected analytics that will be connected not only from the website landing and having a landing page that actually works, and then moving into our licensing. So this is going to be really, really critical for us to chase our customer and also see what that user experience is. But it is a great site. We made apply and buy front and center on every page, and that was kind of by design. So we're moving through that. We'll probably develop on our YouTube page more of content that'll be suitable for some of the things that we can do for promotional pieces, and of course, geofencing where it's applicable. We've just learned what geofencing is about, and it was a great experience because we had good results. And I think we'll really try to zero in on how we can do that better in the future. And then, of course, monitor campaigns and adjust as needed. That I think that's us by design. It might be us for the rest of my career, so this is how it's going to work. So, anybody have any questions?
You said that you do OTT mostly in the south and broadcast in the north. Have you done OTT and broadcast at the same time to see which does better?
Well, it's two different regions.
Well, have you done in one region both of them contested?
I couldn't afford to do broadcast down in Vegas, and since I can't afford broadcast up here, I don't do OT. So I've never done them both in the one.
Ours are, we're looking at impressions and stuff, and ours run about, in Columbia, it's running about the same price for OTT, and, so I'm wondering which way to go. So
OTT's trackable, TV's not.
True. I'm doing some. I think I'm going to do half and half one time, see which one.
The only thing about traditional media that helps in some cases, I think, and is if you have those outdoor channels that are local, which we do. We have a Nevada outdoor channel that people watch frequently. And those things really are, I think, play well. We have done OTT in the north on the fishing campaigns, and we had bought ads as well. The performance, I think, it's just about getting your brand out there. When you look at the traditional media, yeah, it's expensive. You just got to look at those blocks that are not expensive, those time frames.
We're doing, you say it's not trackable, but in our event surveys where we've done broadcasts, a lot of people are like, oh yeah, I've seen you all over A&E and stuff. So it's kind of, I guess we're different. We can't compete with Charlotte like y'all can't compete with Vegas, but Columbia, it's the same price either way.
So yeah, great stuff. So when you say Google ads, do you mean the search ads, like you pay for search terms, or are you talking Google Display Network?
Google displays.
Okay, when you see a picture.
Like when you're looking at the story, I'm bugging you right here.
Okay.
I was bugging a lot of people.
And then
The chase.
urban lakes, did you only do the lake itself, or did you do half a mile around the lake, or
We did 2 miles.
2 miles.
Yeah, and what I was really trying to do is trying to get the ones that are close to the market.
Yeah.
So I was trying to get market and urban pond within that radius, there was a lot in Vegas. So we were really trying to target them there, and that way they could beat the market and oh, we have an urban pond right over here, right?
Yeah.
And there's a fishable experience there. So that's what we were trying to push, but it wasn't as effective as we thought it was going to be.
Probably enough inventory to serve ads too at that point.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Good stuff. Thanks. Any other?
Oh, over here.
She's behind
Hi, Sue from Utah DWR. I was just curious, can you share your media budget with us? Are you comfortable?
Yeah, and that's the thing. I don't know if other states are the same way because I don't think we've thanked RBFF enough. But honestly, without the grant from RBFF, we'd be up the creek because I believe fishing.
We matched it, and also through the media group and us, we matched the grant.
So 25-25
Yeah.
for fishing, and then boating we were able to do, because it's funny because my brain thinks before and after July 1st, because that's when our budgets flip over. So 20 before and 15 after, so 35 on the boating campaign.
Yeah, Because we have a similar state population, I think. So it's just
So
curious.
not a really tiny amount, like that's a decent amount, but
Right.
not big enough to really.
And I was curious too, the agency that you hired, did they do your creative and your media buy, or did they?
It was a combination.
It's a combination.
We did most of the creative and working with them, but some of the videos that they definitely did the video shots. We gave them the content, and then they helped us draft it.
If you liked some of the graphics, that was us. If you didn't, that was that was Sinclair.
Is there a question over here? A two-part question. First, on the data on the fire and smoke, is that something you guys are tracking now as part of like your analysis of license sales each year?
As far as data, like what you're referring to, like the downturn of why fires were creating, what they were creating, or?
No, more so like there's been some modeling done in Iowa by some of their fish biologists that when it rains, they don't sell as much licenses. And then the black bear biologists in Pennsylvania started doing it because when it snows, they harvest more black bears. Have you guys like tapped in to bring that data in yet?
We definitely have the data from previous license years based on drought versus a good year of water for sure. I mean, we know that good years with water is always a bump in fishing or boating to some degree. I wouldn't say boating so much. That population is, I don't know as much as Aaron does, but I do know that on the fishing end of things, it definitely moves up.
Nice. And then when you...
I think we just hope that there's, like, every year we go, please no fires, please no fires. So I don't
Right,
think
yeah.
we've actually, which we probably should, start planning for if the areas around burst into flames again, then what's our campaign? Because that's why we had to pivot so much, is we just go in optimistic every year, and this year it didn't work out for us.
Yeah, and I would say that we will be faster. Because we would find our results, and then we were like, oh, we have a downturn, this is happening right now. We knew because of the fire, we knew it was happening, but we should have been like day one, right? Like, okay, it's fires everywhere, this smoke's not gonna clear out for 2 weeks. How do we adjust with our tools that we have?
Sure.
And that's what we should have been, and we will do in the future.
And then the texting, did you guys text, like, use it strategically, or are you sending out, for our customer or our clients, we say there's transactional, or we're sending you a receipt, thanks for your business. Then we also do strategic marketing.
Yeah.
Are you doing both, or one or the other?
So most of the texting was more for the lapsed. So somebody that did not purchase, we were doing that reminder to them and saying, okay, hey, where'd you go? We miss you. But that was more about the license drive on the texting. And texting for us is still fairly new. As we move through with our partners in Calcami, I think we'll be really concentrating in the future on phone numbers, because that's the future for us. And I would say the success that we've had communicating through text has been really good, because we've actually done things where we have to put reminders out for surveys that people have to complete. We'll put it out in a text, and we finally get some response back that we've been sending lots of emails to. So we know that emails are not 100% effective. One of we do know about our emails that are really good is that we have a great open rate, and I think that is because most of the emails that we send are genuine, that we are trying to help them in some way or navigate them in some way to help them with fishing reports or stocking reports or whatever, and they're opening it and they see it. And I'll have to say, having a wildlife-centric picture makes people open things. I don't know why it is, but they do. They open up those emails. So we'll still continue with email. It's just going to be a mixed bag in the future.
Quick question in regards to targeting non-residents in this crisis type year. Are you going to plan to continue to do that?
Oh yeah, good question. Thank you. And I'm actually will be working on that pretty heavily on the future, not only on our fishing campaigns, but and boating, but also the hunting aspects of it, because it's really, we have some great opportunities for non-residents in Nevada. There's not a ton of tags. We're a limited resource for sure, but some of the things that they can't receive in other states are in Nevada. So I think we will be pushing a lot of the non-resident on all of our licensing pieces.
And without getting too much into he's already started doing that. what he learned with the fishing side, we're heading towards our big game application process. And so we've already had a couple of meetings talking about targeting non-residents to maybe apply. So he's already using what he learned during this last campaign.
Hi, so I'm with Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries and QR codes. So we have 17 different sites around the state that are our community fishing sites, and currently those signs all have a QR code on them. We've heard from the public that they haven't seen the codes, didn't know how to use them, but currently that QR code is to bring them to check-in. They let us know that they were at the site fishing, what they caught, provide us a picture. We are redoing these signs, and we're trying to figure out, is there a better way to promote the QR codes? We kind of thought with COVID and menus and restaurants, going to QR codes and more people would be aware of them. But also, how much information should we put at the landing page? Are we not using the QR code in the right way, that we are just sending them to the actual link? Should we send them to a different landing page? And kind of what did you guys do on your QR codes? Did you have multiple? And each, here's one for fishing license, here's one for other information.
That's a good question. We kind of went through this, just trying to figure out and recently, because we had a building, right? We're like, hey, we need to put a QR code in a building. And where do we want it to land? Well, of course we want it to land in the licensing page, but we also, it depends on our message, right? If you have an AIS message you're trying to get and you're putting it at a waterway, you might want to have that as a QR code to your AIS on your landing page at your website. But if you're wanting to try to sell a license and somebody's coming out fishing and you're trying to promote that, I think that's where we kind of go, okay, where do we want that QR code to go? In this case, this is boat registration and fishing, and it was at access points at our parks. So that's what we're really concentrating on, some of that QR code. We were actually getting that from our licensed vendor to say, we're going to be specific on certain scenarios, what we want people to go to. Like the building, we want them to go to the website too. So we want them to land there, but they can land on the website as on apply and buy. So they might be on our website, but they also, if they're looking to purchase, they could be there. So we're going through the navigation piece of it too.
And as far as educating them as how to use it, I don't know, we just got lucky. Because we've had them on other things for years, and same thing, they got ignored, and now they're being used at a rate we haven't seen in years. So we didn't do any messaging to explain it, we just started including it on stuff, and people started clicking through again.